Instead, they simply fly away, leaving Bruce confused and wondering why they spared him. When Bruce later reunites with Will and the others, he tells them about the strange encounter. Will admits that the same thing happened to him during his escape from Monica Block. Katie speculates that they might be on some kind of special list, which is why the drones are ignoring them. She believes it's connected to the files Bruce found in the Blackjack's vehicle. Meanwhile, Snyder, who is usually focused on self-preservation, hears about the attack on Red Hand from Bennett. Surprisingly, he doesn't seem to care much. He's more concerned with celebrating his success with Helen. But during their celebration, Helen gets a phone call informing her that LA Block is scheduled for full evacuation. This news visibly shakes her, but she doesn't share her concerns with Snyder. Back in the city, we see Maddie wandering the streets looking lost and desperate. The city is being evacuated, and people are being loaded onto buses, headed for San Fernando. Maddie, feeling completely alone and powerless, boards one of the buses. The passengers are taken to a large church-like building, where Maddie can't stop thinking about her son. She tries to find out where he is, but no one will tell her. When she refuses to follow the orders of a Red Hand soldier, she is beaten severely, adding to her suffering. Snyder, realizing the evacuation is happening faster than expected, confronts Helen. She explains that she received the orders last night, but tries to reassure him that he'll be fine. She promises to make him the proxy general of Europe and says a car will come to pick him up soon. Snyder, worried about his daughter's safety, asks about her. Helen promises that she'll send his daughter to him later and reassures him that nothing will happen to her. But Snyder, ever cautious, isn't fully convinced. At the same time, the Blackjacks discover Will's hideout and want the gauntlet back. They launch a surprise attack, leading to a violent shootout. Morgan is killed in the crossfire, but Will and the others manage to fight back and kill the Blackjack soldiers. With their hideout compromised, the group seeks refuge at an old friend's house. Will realizes that their only chance of escaping is to make a deal with Snyder. He offers to return the gauntlet to the Blackjacks in exchange for safe passage out of the block. Bruce is initially against the idea, but he eventually agrees, knowing they have no other choice. He contacts Snyder and lays out the terms of the deal. Snyder, knowing that Helen will eventually turn on him too, agrees to help. He knows that if he stays, he'll be sent to the factory along with everyone else. Snyder meets with the Blackjacks to negotiate the gauntlet's return. What he asks for in return is left unclear, but it's obvious that Snyder has his own agenda. After making the deal, Snyder meets with Will and Bruce. He explains that total redemption means that everyone in the block will be sent to the factory. He admits that even he might be included in that group. Snyder, no longer trusting Helen, decides to escape with Will and his family. Will agrees to bring him along. As they prepare to leave, Will and his family load into a car. Bruce, however, decides to stay behind. He tells Katie not to worry about him, assuring her that he's good at hiding and will be fine on his own. After a tearful goodbye, Will, Katie, and their children drive off with Snyder. They encounter a security checkpoint, but Snyder uses his ID to get them through. At the second checkpoint, however, they are stopped. Will, thinking quickly, explains the truth to the soldiers, telling them that the evacuation isn't what it seems. He tells the Red Hand soldiers that their families are in danger, just like his, and that the real fate awaiting everyone is the factory, where no one comes back. One of the soldiers, skeptical but desperate, calls San Fernando for confirmation, but he receives no response. This silence from headquarters causes the soldiers to doubt their orders. Reluctantly, they decide to let Will, his family, and Snyder pass, believing Will's story about the impending danger. As they cross the checkpoint, Will, Katie, and the others finally enter a new block, leaving behind the chaos of LA Block. But the relief is short-lived, as they realize that, while they've escaped for now, their problems are far from over. Meanwhile, back at LA Block, a devastating scene unfolds. The people who were evacuated are gathered in a large, open area surrounded by drones. This place seems to be the factory that everyone feared. It's a cold, industrial landscape with drones hovering overhead, ensuring no one can escape. The tears fill Will's eyes as he watches the drones corral the people he couldn't save. His guilt weighs heavy on him, knowing that many of them, including his friends, are likely headed toward their deaths or something even worse. Now, in the new block, we see the Bowman family settling into their new life. They've been living in the jungle for about 6 months since they entered the Santa Fernando. Will, the head of the family, is convinced that staying here is their best chance of survival. He believes that being off the grid and far from the urban centers offers them more safety than any fortified block. Out here, he tells the family, no one can find us. Despite the calm, there's an underlying tension. This is, after all, a world under alien occupation, and every moment carries the weight of danger. Snyder, who joined them after making a deal with the Blackjacks, remains with the family, but the situation is complicated. It might seem like they've formed a bond with him, and there are moments where it feels like he's becoming a part of the group. The kids occasionally joke with him, and he even helps with chores around the cabins. But unknown to the family, Snyder still has the locator device given to him by the Blackjacks. This device is a lifeline, a tool that allows Snyder to summon the powerful Blackjack soldiers if he ever senses danger or needs help. Snyder walks a fine line, playing the part of the trusted ally while holding on to his contingency plan in case things go wrong. The peaceful days are interrupted when, out of nowhere, the family hears a strange noise coming from outside the cabin. It's distant but unsettling enough to put everyone on high alert. Snyder, always cautious, is the first to grab his gun, followed quickly by Will, Katie, and Bram. They cautiously make their way outside, scanning the dense forest for any sign of danger. It's then that they spot something moving in the distance, a robot, but not just any robot. This is a drone, the same kind used by the aliens to patrol occupied areas. These drones are designed to detect movement, and once they identify a target, they destroy it without mercy. The family watches in silence, their hearts racing. Fortunately, the drone doesn't seem to notice them. It continues its patrol, eventually disappearing into the dense jungle. Will breathes a sigh of relief but can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. Why was the drone here so deep in the jungle? They had chosen this location specifically to avoid detection, yet now it seemed the enemy was closer than they thought. As they return to the cabin, Bram, always the thinker, shares something he's been working on with Will. He's built a makeshift radio locator that can detect nearby radio frequencies. For the past few days, he's been picking up a strange frequency, a girl's voice. Bram believes she might be part of the resistance, a group of rebels fighting back against the alien occupation. He suggests reaching out to her, thinking this could be their opportunity to connect with others and maybe even get some valuable intel on the enemy. However, Will is immediately against the idea. It's too dangerous, he says. Contacting someone they don't know could expose their location, and with the drones already patrolling nearby, it's not a risk he's willing to take. Bram, frustrated, tries to convince him, but Will stands firm. We're safe here, Bram. We can't jeopardize that. Bram reluctantly backs down, but it's clear that the conversation has left him feeling unsatisfied. Snyder, who has been listening to the exchange, sees an opportunity. He approaches Bram later, away from Will, and encourages him to reconsider contacting the resistance. Snyder plays on Bram's frustration, subtly manipulating him. Will's a good leader, Snyder says, but sometimes playing it too safe means missing out on important opportunities. Bram, still angry at Will's refusal, begins to consider Snyder's words. The seeds of doubt have been planted, and Snyder knows that Bram's desire to fight back could work in his favor. Just when it seems like things have calmed down, the group hears another sound, this one much louder and more menacing. They rush outside and are greeted by an unbelievable sight. An enormous alien ship is under attack. The attackers? Alien drones, just like the one they saw earlier. But what's strange is that the drones are attacking their own kind. The massive ship is unlike anything they've seen before, clearly alien, but with a design that differs from the standard wrap ships they've encountered. It's clear that something larger is at play, something beyond their understanding. The family watches in shock as the drones destroy the ship, sending fiery debris raining down into the forest. The sky is lit up with explosions, and for a moment, the jungle feels like a war zone. Will is shaken. He's seen plenty of strange things since the invasion began, but this is something new. What does it mean when the aliens are attacking their own kind? Are there factions within their ranks? Is there a war among the invaders that the humans are unaware of? The destruction of the ship raises another, more immediate concern. The drones will now be scanning the entire area for survivors. If the Bowman family stays here, they'll be discovered for sure. Will realizes that they can't stay in the jungle any longer. We have to move, he tells the group. If we stay, we'll be caught. But before they can leave, Will decides they need answers. He tells Snyder that they're going to investigate the crashed ship. We need to know what we're dealing with, he says. Snyder agrees, but it's clear that he's nervous. The crash site could hold valuable information, or it could be a trap. Either way, it's a risk they have to take. Meanwhile, Brian approaches Katie with the idea of contacting the resistance group so that they can hand over the gauntlet and fulfill their promise to Bruce. Katie, cautious and aware of the gravity of the situation, responds that the final decision will lie with Will. They then work together to retrieve the gauntlet they had hidden underground for safekeeping. The moment is tense, as they know the gauntlet holds great importance. On the other side of the city, we see Will and Snyder arriving at the crash site of an alien ship. The atmosphere is eerie, as several drones circle the area, scanning the wreckage. Snyder, sensing danger, turns to Will and suggests that they leave immediately. He believes there might be an unseen threat lurking nearby, perhaps an enemy of the aliens who shot down the ship. Will, however, takes a more strategic stance, arguing that if these beings are enemies of the aliens, they could potentially be allies to the humans. But Snyder quickly dismisses this theory, stating, "That logic doesn't work here. Not in this world, not anymore." As they gather more information, a new piece of intelligence surfaces. A rumor has spread through the ranks of the IGA, International Government Authority, that the alien-controlled factory is not merely for production, but is actually manufacturing defense weapons. This revelation sends a chill through Will and Snyder. It becomes evident that the aliens are preparing for a large-scale war, one that could devastate not only the humans but possibly the entire planet. After inspecting the crash site, Will and Snyder make their way back, but just as they are about to leave, they notice soldiers arriving on the scene. Without hesitation, Will opens fire on them, recognizing that their presence could mean trouble for his family. He shouts to Snyder to rush back to Katie and the children, urging them to get ready and leave immediately. Snyder, though hesitant, follows Will's orders and makes his way back, while Will stays behind to cover their retreat. As Snyder reaches Katie, he quickly explains the situation, urging her and the children to pack up and leave as fast as possible. Katie, ever the protective mother, doesn't waste time, bundling up their belongings and getting the kids ready to flee. Soon after, Will arrives, and the family begins their escape.